Da 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 No. Ah.
Roller initiative.
Hello, welcome. This video is about Dragon Heist character generation for my playgroup, D&D 5e playgroup, and we're going to be starting pretty soon with this adventure. But I thought I'd stick this up on the mostly off-topic YouTube channel, just for those people who are interested. It may kind of be a useful resource for players or for GMs who are starting the campaign themselves. No spoilers in here, nothing kind of radical. It's a summary of the materials and the kind of approach that I'm going to be using for the game. The guys that I'm playing with, they play with me, for a while, over a year now actually. So this isn't going to be particularly unusual to them either. But I thought I'd start with a bit of flavour. This is Waterdeep by Night, and you can kind of see it's got an almost kind of Victorian London feel about it. The fog, the smog, the kind of hansom carriage, the kind of people wandering through those big tall tenements, kind of poorly lit. And I think in terms of Waterdeep, the aesthetic I'm going to be going for in various places and in most of the city is going to be that kind of Victorian London, kind of Jack the Ripper style aesthetic. But the technology level and the dress and the kind of speech patterns are going to be more Age of Enlightenment. So think Blackadder the Third. If you haven't seen Blackadder the Third, kind of just YouTube some scenes from it, you'll pick it up. Age of Enlightenment, the 1700s rather than the kind of late 1800s post-industrial revolution. I think probably Waterdeep is possibly on the cusp of an industrial revolution, or kind of as close to it as the realms kind of allows. So I just wanted to put this picture up to kind of get people's minds into that kind of zone. There's not much colour moving on from there next, to be perfectly honest. So in terms of Char Gen, so this is an opportunity for you guys to tell me what you're interested in the game. If you all create kind of characters that are a sea crew, kind of on shore leave, I'll kind of know, okay, maybe you want to have a little bit of an aquatic element to the adventure. So it's that kind of thing. Please don't, because that would be great. But anyway, so some kind of just basic points here. Standard array of point buy, don't mind which. All Wizards of the Coast hardbacks are kind of legal. Pick all the options from there. Mix and match as many books as you like. Don't mind. And you can use the Elemental Evil Player's Companion if you like. And from Unearthed Arcana, that kind of list of stuff is available to you. Things that stand out are possibly the Mystic class, a whole new class to have a little bit of a play with. We may have to tweak it as we kind of go through it, given its playtest materials. The Theurgy subclass is also possibly of interest. I'll check it out there for people who may want to go down those routes, but kind of pick through that. If you've really got a burning desire to play some third-party publication kind of option, or you want a UA option that's not listed there, then hit me up and we'll have a chat about it. And if you're creating something that's slightly off the beaten track or largely off the beaten track, whilst Waterdeep is cosmopolitan, it's probably the best place to kind of like be strange in the realms. Strange is a kind of word for unusual, I guess. I will be playing in those peculiarities into the kind of RP. Even if you don't play kind of that peculiarity, say you decide that you're going to be a kind of cleric of kind of Bane, and you're kind of going to be lawful evil, and you're going to be intimidating, and you don't play that up, other people will respond to you based upon their surface impressions of you, and the whole shortcut to what kind of personality you might be, that your dress and your behaviours and stuff would be like. So I'll be taking some assumptions around that. Okay, so continuing with the Char Gen, can't be a member of a faction at the start of the game unless you take the faction agent background. You will have an opportunity to become members of factions as the story progresses, and you can be a member of any of Waterdeep's guilds. If your background, if you've got proficiency in blacksmithing, for instance, then you can be a member of the blacksmith guild, kind of in good standing, bad standing, whatever you like. That's kind of entirely within your ball game. In terms of alignment, no chaotic evil or neutral evil characters. I am going to allow lawful evil, but I will be cautious of chaotic neutral. Basically, just don't try to screw the group over. You can screw as many other people over as you like in your ruthless kind of nature, but I want you pulling all in broadly the same direction. We shouldn't say that everybody's kind of loving everybody and it's kind of, how you doing? No, it's great, you're brilliant, kind of Paw Patrol style, but I need you to be motivated to play nice with the other members of the party, and frankly, that's an out of game conceit that I will want to have reflected in game. We'll be doing a session 0 to establish links between the characters. You don't need to have links with every other single kind of character, but I'd like there to be a chain between those characters, and not just I recognise Johnny from the pub. It's got to be something that allows you to be invested in the characters. Fate uses a really good thing, which is kind of like on the blurb at the back of the DVD of the story we're going to make. What role did the other characters play in your story? So just think about that kind of aspect, and we can work that through in session 0. And think of a rival. Don't necessarily need to lock into a rival. And if you're short of inspiration a little bit, then I'm cool so long as the group has 2, maybe 3 rivals. We'll have a play group of 4 or 5 players. Sometimes 4 or 5 rivals is just too much. It's kind of like, whoa, what do I do next? So kind of we'll work out in session 0 again. But think about who could be a rival for you. As per Xanathars, and we'll kind of work that up a little bit as well to kind of plug into the story. Okay, so looking at some specific rules and house rules, I will want you to account down to the copper piece. It's a bit unusual for me, but I'd like to have that level of admin. I think it's going to be more relevant in an urban campaign. I will be using the lifestyle expense rules, which we've kind of never really done in the games I've ran before. Again, it links, I think, more into an urban campaign than it does into kind of out in the jungle of Chult. And I'll be using the social interaction rules, so it's from the DMG and the PHP. So NPCs will start with a kind of favourable, a neutral, or an unfavourable kind of starting position, and through a combination of RP but also the social skills, so maybe a charisma deception, charisma intimidation, whatever role, you'll kind of be able to move them up and down, and the difficulty checks are as per the DCs in kind of the DMG. So social skills will have definite mechanical meaning as well as relying upon the fiction in the game. And again, that's clearly because I want it to be an urban game. I think there's going to be more reliance on social skills, at least in Dragon Heist, than in some of the other games we've run. I will be using renown rules, so we'll be tracking your standing with the factions if you're a member of the faction. That'll give you some mechanical kind of and story benefits, and we'll be leveling by XP, not milestone, which again is unusual for me. And I'll be including achievement XP, so if you achieve your group's goals or achieve your personal goals in some way, you'll get some XP for that. Even if you don't kill all the monsters, you'll still get XP for defeating the encounter. So kind of don't worry about that. Illusions was per the mostly off-topic article I drafted for adjudicating illusions. I'll not go into the details of it here. If you're not seen that link, then head across to mostly-offtopic.com. I'll probably put a link in the description of the video. And for stealth, just be aware, guys, we're not playing Ezio Auditore, who's able to vanish away. So if you're in combat, you need to be able to break line of sight from people that are kind of watching you to try to kind of achieve stealth, unless you got some ability like Mask of the Wild that allows you to kind of make a stealth check in other circumstances. Mask of the Wild is lightly obscured by natural foliage and fog and stuff like that. Okay, so it's just worth being aware of that. Whilst kind of you might think, oh well, Mask of the Wild, what's that got to do in a city? Think about that picture that I showed at the start. The city gets fog rolling through, it gets dark, there are nooks and crannies, so kind of the City of the Dead is a kind of natural location, so there are opportunities for Wood Elf in Waterdeep. Touched on this throughout, Dragon Heist is an urban campaign, so you'll be talking to citizens of the city rather than denizens of the dungeon. Do you talk to the denizens of the dungeon? Not so much. And we'll segue into Undermountain, which feels more like it's going to be a dungeon crawl, so at least possibly sit at opposite ends of the spectrum when you're creating your characters, but kind of think about the characters appropriately. I wouldn't want you to kind of go all in on an urban one and then find out that kind of like when you're 3 levels down in Undermountain, it perhaps wasn't quite great. And the ability to get into somewhere that's locked, Thieves' Tools proficiency, the knock spell, whatever, would be a benefit, probably in both Dragon Heist and Undermountain. I'm going to take a punt on that. And my GMing style will be as it is, as per a kind of Tomb of Annihilation. I will be your biggest fans, but the dice are going to fall where the dice fall. It'll be public kind of dice rolls, and I'm not going to be necessarily going out to kind of thwart your plans or destroy you any more than I think is fun and challenging. But if you do stupid things and the dice kind of land with crits all around, then you could be threatened. The only way in which this could end badly for me is if those gorillas crit. Oh, and they did. So just the normal way in which I kind of play these things. Some other points to consider, which are kind of touching on things that I've heard you guys talk about or kind of mention or just occur to me. So being a noble of Waterdeep isn't auto-win on social checks. Characters' starting reaction will be based upon whether they know you're a noble and their perceived ability to you, and you can imagine that would be more favourable in the vast majority of cases than unfavourable. But there's a lot of people who won't like the nobility, I imagine, in Waterdeep. You can't have access to your family's limitless gold reserves or influence, even if you're the firstborn son of the most powerful noble in the city. We need to work out at session 0 why that's kind of restricted in some way. I don't want it just to kind of turn into the noble bankroll the whole thing, and that's where the spotlight is. So we need to think about that. And the RP, of course, will reflect you've been a noble as much as if you were a blacksmith or kind of any other peculiarity of your character. The final point I'll make is the adventure isn't a vacuum. There's no ticking clock like we had in TOA. There's no existential threat to the kind of universe like there has been in some of our other campaigns. So if you're come from Waterdeep, you'll have roots there, you'll have family, you'll have friends, you'll have people that you kind of went through the journeyman ranks in your guild with, or whatever it is. If you're not from Waterdeep, then you possibly have those roots elsewhere, but you'll be seeking to establish those relationships, possibly with the adventuring group. So let's work to flesh those out a little bit. Do a little bit of it session 0, possibly a little bit kind of outside the game, but we'll be incorporating them into the game a lot more. It's going to be more of a sandbox style. Dragon Heist actually lends itself well to this. It's a lot less encounter like we had in TOA, driven by a clock ticking down to the kind of doomsday event. So it allows us just to meander a little bit and to kind of build on the characters in Waterdeep. I've got a lot of material on Waterdeep. I've got a lot of ideas about Waterdeep and what it can mean, so we can kind of start to explore that a little bit. Okay, thanks for watching. If you've got any questions from my group, then just hit me up in the usual places. If you've got any questions more generally, comment below or email us mostly offtopic@gmail.com. Thank you.